What's up my loves, my name is Paige, this is Paige of the Page, and today we're going to be doing my February book haul. Hello my darlings, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking through the books that I acquired in the month of February. I am very happy with the collection that I acquired, but I do also want to preface this haul with a little bit of a heads up, I suppose. I ended up in February moving house and setting up the bookshelves and combining Ash's and my collection. So I've got his books mixed in with mine. He still has his sort of collection, but it also has some of mine that fit well with that as well. So I've combined our TBR, because normally I would say my TBR is this and then our entire TBR is this, including the books from Ash's shelves that I want to read. I merged them and that was daunting because I spent a long time trying to work to get both of those numbers under 200, and then my parents bought up the books that I had left at their place, so I added more books to my TBR, but technically I had already hauled them, so I'm going to mention them at the end of this video, but they are not going into the book haul stats. If you have issue with that, please let me know. I will attempt to not acquire any more books until I've read 45 TBR books which will make these numbers balance, but I'm currently at 19, so there's 26 more to go. So I'll talk through the stats of what my book acquisitions looked like, and then I'll talk about the books that I acquired in February, and then the little extras, I'll just mention them at the end so there's a reference for them at some point. I also have ones on my shelves that I didn't add back to the TBR because I didn't want to, like Murakami and things like that. I'm just not interested. I also did unhaul 2 TBR books and 1 red book as well. That all comes into play with the numbers, but let's talk about the stats and then we'll talk about the books. In the month of February, I acquired 4 books that weren't previously hauled. 3 of those were adding to the TBR, and 1 it's essentially a swap. Now I have 2 versions of it, and I'll talk through that one. So I've added 3 books to the TBR and swapped 1. I spent a total of $17.70. 2 were gifts, 1 Ash bought for himself, and then 1 I spent my $17.70 on. In the month of February, I had the life happen, so I only read 6 books, but every single one of those was backlist. So I'm very proud of that. I could add 2 unread books, but I have 4, but my yearly total is reading 19 backlist books. Thank you, January, for coming in clutch. So I could add 6 unread books to my TBR to keep my 3 off to 1 on, and I have those 4 that are unread. So currently at 4 and very happy. Like I said, I unhauled 3, 2 unread, 1 read, and then my TBR numbers. At the beginning of February, my TBR number was sitting at 152, and Ash's and my entire collection was sitting at 182. So I'm really proud. I'm really proud because currently my entire TBR, this is the number going forward. They're not going to be split. It's so nice to be able to do this, is 188. Went up by 6, but considering I had these 4 and then those 11, I am insanely proud with my TBR numbers. The main thing that I wanted was it to not be over 200 books. That was the thing that I feel was when I started to feel like everything's more manageable. So 188 going forward, that's a TBR number that I'm going to work on, and I'm very excited to continue to chip away at it. It feels fresh, it feels collated, it feels good. Let's talk about the books. The first 2 were the gifts that I got. The first being Never a Hero by Vanessa Len, and Tracy kindly gifted this to me for my birthday, and I'm just so thrilled. This is the second in the Monsters series, and we're following Joan as she continues on from where the last book left off. I was so pleasantly surprised by Only a Monster and how I vibed with it, and it really shocked me just by hitting all the right notes. So I'm so excited to continue on with the series, and I absolutely adore this cover. It is so stunning. I don't know much about it because it's the second book. I like going into my series blind. I like going into all my books blind, but especially series, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone for the first book. But I really enjoyed the character dynamics in the first one and very excited to see where we go. The second gift was from Erin, and this is just Yeah, always a delightful time. They got me The Demon's Queen by Katie Robert. This is the 6th in the Deal with a Demon series. It's like got the little personalized notes and everything, and it just, it makes me so happy getting these. I'm also really excited because it says sex worker heroine, the slightest whiff of Beauty and the Beast. Magic sex bar makes everything better. Like, please also check content warnings, like Katie does put them at the beginning of their books, which I very much appreciate. But yes, I always can have more Katie Robert in my life. Like, I'm so excited. So I'm really excited to continue on with both these series and get to these in 2025. Then the book that I got myself was Hell by Dante. This was the Patreon pick for February, and I will hold Divine Comedy. I really struggled to read it online, listening to the audiobook and then reading Cliff Notes, and Bert was talking about how they really enjoyed Dorothy Sayers' version, the introduction, and the way that they approach it. So I got it. I was sitting in my cart the entire month of February, and I decided, I think on the 27th, to purchase it, and it arrived the next day. So now I have this to be able to chip away at, and unfortunately I'm not then going to be doing the Patreon read for February, but I'm going to continue this project throughout as long as I need it to, because it is a very daunting work. Like, I did get through the first 10 cantoses quickly when I was doing it, but I didn't feel like I was doing it right. So I want to see it with an academic translation that seems fun as much as you can make that happen, and so this is the option I went with. I also adore these covers. I think they're hilarious. I'm going to restart and chip away at this throughout the foreseeable future. I'm hoping to get this around March and April at the latest, but we'll just see where my reading takes me. And finally, Ash got Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, which is also very fortunate because this was also one of the books that came back from my parents, but I could have added in the whole stats and not have to worry about including it as an extra because I have this edition that is now going on the TBR. Do I know much about this story aside from the fact someone's traveling the world in 80 days? No. Is Ash having a fun time actually reading it and talking about how the protagonist is very autistically coded? Yes. So it's here. Do I think I'll get to this in 2025? Probably not, but it's a really lovely, bright edition. Ash is actually making me want to pick it up with the way that he's vibing with it. So it's on the TBR. These were the 4 books that I acquired in February. I'm pissing myself laughing at these 2 like classics and then a Monster Smut and a YA new adult fantasy that's very interesting. So it's such like, this sums up my brain in a nutshell. The fact that Hell has been put on the back burner also is very strongly my brain. That is the haul for February. I am so happy with that. I'm really happy with how my book acquisitions are going. I'm not just buying everything that strikes my fancy, and I am keeping tabs on some new releases that are coming out, but I'm not like immediately going out and getting them. So I feel good with that because especially with February, my reading took a back seat and I'm like, no, I want to chip away at the numbers before I continue to acquire things. The other 11 books that got added to my TBR, I will go through these quite quickly. The Fall of the House of Usher and Other Stories by Edgar Allan Poe. I have read The Raven and selected short stories from his collection, but it didn't have the Fall of the House of Usher, I don't believe, and there are a few in here that I don't have. I love this edition of it, and I didn't realize what it was when my parents sent through a photo of it. I knew that I had got it at a library book sale or acquired in from an auction house or something, but I was actually pleasantly surprised at it and very excited to have this back on the TBR to read more of Edgar Allan Poe's, and I do definitely want to read The Fall of the House of Usher after reading T. Kingfisher's What Moves the Dead. Then I have this giant beautiful edition of Charles Dickens' 5 novels. What do we have? We've got Oliver Twist, which I have read, A Tale of Two Cities, which I have read, David Copperfield, which I haven't read, A Christmas Carol, which I have read, and Great Expectations, which I have not read. So only 2 out of the 5 have not been read, but this beast is a beast. This is on the TBR to read those other 2 stories. I probably should put them on separately, but it's all in one bind up, so here we go. It is weighty. Then I have the complete works of William Shakespeare. Again, like, if this comes up on the TBR, I'm not reading this entire thing in one sitting, but I might dip in and out I'll pick a particular play or something that holds my interest for it. It's, yeah, a really old beat up edition, and it's absolutely Bible thin pages and teeny tiny text. So Ash was reading through this being like, oh dear God, help me. But it's in the collection, it's on the TBR. We'll see how much of a dent I ever get through this. I have The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Johannesson. I originally wasn't going to put this back on the TBR. I just didn't feel any inclination towards it, and then I just kept looking at it and going, you know what, let's do it. Do I know anything about the story? No. Am I gonna go in blind? Yep. And that's how this is gonna go. Alongside Jasper Jones by Craig Silvey, I know that this is a really impactful read that a lot of people study in our English courses in Australia. I never had to read it, but it's like literally one of the top 10 Aussie books you must read before you die. It's one of those ones that I'm like, yeah, but it's going on. We'll see what happens and if I get to it. It's historical fiction. I don't know how I'm gonna go with this, but we'll see. Then I have The End of Mr. Y by Scarlett Thomas, and I know nothing about this aside from the fact that I have another book on my shelves, The Seed Collectors, which Mel kindly gifted to me, and I think this was my sister's copy. So it's a book about books. Interesting. Okay, I know nothing aside from Ariel Manto has a fascination with The End of Mr. Y, a book no one alive has read. Maybe because it's cursed and everyone related to it, the author of various book collectors, Ariel's doctoral advisor, disappears, but suddenly she discovers a rare copy in a used bookstore. What? Using the book to follow in Mr. Y's footsteps, she falls into a trance and steps into Troposphere, a wonderland of an alternate dimension where she can travel through time and space using the thoughts of others, and so Ariel launches into a heart-racing, brain-teasing, time-twisting adventure of science, faith, consciousness, death, and everything in between. Like, what the fuck? I'm so intrigued to read this now. This has definitely gone up on the TBR list. So, there you go. And then the final lot came from Ash's collection. And that is the Throne of Glass box set with the first 4 books in novella book. I have read Throne of Glass, but I haven't read the other 4, so that's where we got to 4 extra ones on this list. So add into that TBR. And I do want to chip away at this to be able to eventually get caught up on the Sarah J Maas universe, but I doubt that I will go and purchase the later books in this series once I do get there. But for now, I have this set. So this is the stack of things going on the TBR at the end of February. Oh fuck, that was a choice. Jesus, that was heavy. Let me know in the comments what you acquired in the month of February, or if you had any fantastic reads or anything you want to let me know, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. I'll hopefully see you in my next video or over on my Patreon. Bye!